Okay, thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the June 20th Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And first of all, I'd like to have Tim Pierce, if you'd lead us in invocation. And those that, if they're willing or able to stand, please do so.
Reading from Proverbs chapter 2, verse 6 says, "For the Lord grants wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He grants a treasure of common sense to the honest. He is a shield to those who walk with integrity. He guards the path of the just and protects those who are faithful to him. Then you will understand what is right, just, and fair, and you will find the right way to go, for wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will fill you with joy. Wise choices will watch over you. Understanding will keep you safe." Our Heavenly Father, we come to you and we just pray for your wisdom this day. We pray for your understanding, Lord, and we just pray that you'll be with the commissioners, those that are making presentations, that, Lord, your hand be upon every part of it. We thank you that we're in a country that we can come and bring our differences, talk them over, and make a decision. So we just pray for your wisdom. We thank you, Lord, for those that are serving. We thank you those that are here, Lord, that are involved. We commit this commission to you this day in Jesus' name. Amen.
Join me in the pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to introduce John Peterson, our zoning manager, and turn the meeting over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing will be conducted with the following process and procedure. Each case will be called in numerical order. The applicant is requested to stand and signify that they are in attendance. Then we're going to call for any opposition to signify that they are here also, so they can be counted for the official record. After the counting of the opposition, the applicant and any opposition will be asked to come forward and be sworn in so they can present testimony to the Board of Commissioners. The applicant will testify first, and then if there's any opposition, they will testify second. It's important to note that each side gets 10 minutes to state their case or concerns. There's not a rebuttal process or a process to reserve your time, so convey all your information to the Board of Commissioners within your 10-minute time period. Additionally, if more than one person wishes to speak on an issue, you might want to coordinate with each other about what you're going to talk about, because each side only gets 10 minutes total, and you don't want to cover the same information twice. Then after both sides have had their 10-minute presentation period, the Board of Commissioners will start to discuss the case at hand. From that discussion, they may ask one or more people to come back to the podium for additional information or questions. After that, the board will make a decision to either approve, deny, hold, or continue the matter at hand. There are two cases on today's printed agenda which have been withdrawn and will not be heard today. First case is rezone case Z24, Narden Caldani. That case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Additionally, land use permit number 9, John Ellsworth. That case was withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Additionally, there are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been continued and will not be heard today. First case is rezoning case Z18 of 2016, Pope and Land Enterprises Incorporated. That case was continued by the staff until the July 18th, 2017 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So Z18 of 2016 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z9 of 2017, Parent Homes. That case was continued by the staff until the July 6th, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z9 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z12 of 2017, SSP Blue Ridge LLC. That case was continued by the staff until the September 7th, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z12 will not be heard until the September cycle. Rezoning case Z22 of 2017, Venture Homes Incorporated. That case was continued by the Planning Commission until their July 6th, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z22 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z23 of 2017, Courtney Ellis. That case was held by the Planning Commission until their July 6th, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z23 will not be heard today. excuse me, rezoning case Z26 of 2017, Greenworks LLC. That case was continued by the staff until the July 6, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z26 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z27 of 2017, Ameritech LLC was continued by the staff until the July 6, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z27 will not be heard today. Other business item number 16, Lido U.S. Operations LLC, was continued by the staff until the July 18th, 2017 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business item number 16 will not be heard today. And finally, other business item number 24, DR Horton Incorporated, was continued by the staff until the July 18th, 2017 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business item number 24 will not be heard today. I would like to ask the people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on it. The ringing does interfere with broadcasts and presentations. So if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off. Any person wishing to speak before the Board of Commissioners must file a campaign contribution disclosure statement if, within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of the rezoning application, a campaign contribution totaling $250 more was made to a current member of the Board of Commissioners. Additional information about this is on the table in the back of the room. I want to remind the applicants, opposition, and any interested party that information is due to the Board of Commissioners the Wednesday prior to this hearing. Any information submitted after the Wednesday due date may or may not be considered by the Board of Commissioners at their discretion. Lastly, I would like to announce that the Community Development Department has a monthly newsletter. This publication will host a variety of updates from each division of community development, including zoning. It's full of useful information and serves as a valuable resource for everyone in Cobb County. For more information, visit the Community Development website for when this comes out. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda. Cobb County Board of Commissioners zoning hearing consent agenda for June 20th, 2017. Rezoning case Z111 of 2016, RSDC 1 LLC. Request rezoning from R20 to R5 for the purpose of a residential subdivision in land lot 400 of the 16th district. The property is located on the north side of Shallowford Road, east of Lassiter Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Letter of agreeable stipulations from Mr. Sean Connolly, received by the zoning division on June 13th, 2017. Site plan received June 13th, 2017, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Landscape plan received June 13th, 2017, with the district commissioner approving the final plan. House architecture to be approved by the district commissioner. Fire Department comments and recommendations, Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations, Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations, and the owner developer to enter into a development agreement pursuant to OCGA 367113 for dedication of system improvements to mitigate traffic concerns. Is the applicant present? The director of the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z111? There's one person opposed, Mr. Chairman. So we'll pull this off consent and just hear it in its normal order.
I'm just here representing the HOA, so I'm not opposed as long as the consent goes through as.
Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, I was going to actually make sure, because I know that Hedgerow has been working with the applicant for a while, and I just want to make sure that the clerk has the stipulation letter, the one that John referenced, because in our agenda items, we had a different one.
Right.
So just want to make sure the clerks have the stipulation letter that has the timestamp June 13th. You should have a site plan that says June 13th, and then you should just make sure that you have those. Okay, well, you will.
Okay, now you have them.
Okay, and that's
Okay.
the one that Hedgerow agreed to.
Okay, so there's no opposition, so
okay, we'll leave that on consent.
leave it on consent.
Okay, rezoning case Z19, Clarence Clay, request rezoning from GC to NRC for the purpose of adding storage to a sports bar in land lots 189 and 190 of the 18th district. The property is located on the east side of Mapleton Parkway, north of Community Drive. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the NRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Eating and drinking establishment only. Generally conform to the parking plan received May 23rd, 2017, with the understanding that the county parking requirements must be met, including the following. A minimum of 30 parking spaces to be provided with a maximum of 20% to be compact car spaces. B, parking spaces in the front parking lot, other than handicapped parking spaces, to either be increased to full-size spaces or marked as compact car spaces per county standard. C, the gate to the rear parking area to be fully open at all times the business is open. Installation of a 20-foot landscape buffer adjacent to the eastern property line. Installation of heavy landscaping for the beautification of the screening in the grassy area to the northwest of the building. The size is approximately 300 square feet. Landscape and buffer plan to be approved by the county arborist and the district commissioner. All landscaping to be maintained with any dead or damaged landscaping to be replaced within 60 days. Parking, landscaping, and buffer to be completed prior to certificate of occupancy being issued for the addition. No outdoor seating, decks, stages, or other uses unless approved by the Board of Commissioners via other business. Staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z19? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z28, Fatima Willoughby, request rezoning from NS to NRC for the purpose of a nursery school slash child daycare in land lot 311 of the 16th district. The property is located on the north side of Shalford Road, west of Steinauer Road. Planning Commission recommends approval to the NRC zoning district subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on April 6, 2017, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. No automotive related uses. District commissioner approved any other uses allowed within the NRC zoning district. Applicant to utilize existing freestanding signage. Fire department comments and recommendations. Water and sewer division comments and recommendations. Stormwater management division comments and recommendations. Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. And the owner developer to enter into a development agreement pursuant to OCGA 367113 for dedication of system improvements to mitigate traffic concerns. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed? Rezone case Z28. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z29, Gina H. Vincent, request rezoning from LRO to R15 for the purpose of single-family houses in land lots 371 and 372 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Blackwell Circle, south of Chastain Corner. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the R15 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on May 11, 2017, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Applicant developer to install a 20-foot buffer along the north of tract 1 and a 10-foot buffer along the eastern sides of tracts 1 and 2. Access to Blackwell Circle only. Fire department comments and recommendations. Water and sewer division comments and recommendations. Stormwater management division comments and recommendations. Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. And the owner developer to enter into a development agreement pursuant to OCGA 367113 for dedication of system improvements to mitigate traffic concerns. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed? Rezone case Z29?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It says here a new public hydrant will be required. This is E29, right?
Correct.
In the fire comments,
Yes.
is the fire department gonna do that, or are they gonna do that? Who's gonna do that?
It's the applicant's job to put it in the fire hydrant.
Okay, so that's part of the stipulations?
That's part of the stipulation.
Okay, all right, just wanna make sure, thanks.
And let the record show there's no one opposed. Moving into land use permits on the consent agenda. LUP 11, Lori Shannon requests a land use permit renewal for the purpose of a hair studio in land lots 1246 and 1271 of the 19th district. The property is located on the west side of Sammy Drive, the north side of Ruth Lane, south of Norma Lane. Staff recommends approval for 24 months, subject to staff comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 11? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And moving into other business cases on the consent agenda. Other business item number 19 is to consider granting a special exception for a reduction of public road frontage as recommended by the Board of Zoning Appeals from their May 10th, 2017 variance hearing regarding variance application V51, which was Christopher Campbell. Staff recommends approval, subject to the Board of Zoning Appeals minutes from May 10th, 2017. Is the applicant present? The director show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 19? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 20 is to consider granting a special exception for a reduction of lot size as recommended by the Board of Zoning Appeals from their May 10, 2017 variance hearing regarding variance application V54 Pradera Group. Staff recommends approval, subject to the Board of Zoning Appeals minutes from May 10, 2017. Is the applicant present? Is the applicant here for other business item number 20? Is there anyone here opposed to item number 20? There's no one opposed, Mr. Chairman. We'll give the applicant a call to see if they can come in.
Okay,
Moving on to other business, item number 21 is to consider amending the site plan stipulations for JWPIV-BAT LLC regarding rezoning application Z47 of 2015. The property is located at the southwest intersection of South Cobb Drive and Dink Lane, land lot 300 of the 17th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the proposed site plan contained in the other business packet. Rear of building to be used for parking only. Stormwater management comments, Cobb DOT comments, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 21?
Commissioner Weatherford has a comment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This was previously approved originally in District 4, and with the redistricting, it's now my district, but I would like to pull this on discussion so Commissioner Cubic could have a chance to weigh in on any changes to our previously approved zoning.
Okay,
Okay, pull that off then. Other business, item number 22 is to consider amending the site plan stipulations for Gary M. Deppie regarding rezoning application Z51 of 2012. The property is located on the north side of Roswell Road, west of Robert Lane, in land lots 961, 984, and 985 of the 16th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Deletion of the fencing behind lots 9 through 13 in Sterling Ridge Chase subdivision. Applicant to provide Sterling Ridge Chase with a new brick monument sign, landscaping and fencing up to $5,000 in value by December 31st, 2017. All previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 22? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 23 is to consider amending the site plan and stipulations for Medical Development Corp. Regarding rezoning application Z33 of 2014. The property is located on the west side of Bells Ferry Road and on the south side of Shiloh Pass, in land lots 148 and 149 of the 16th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Deletion of stipulation 12H from the letter of stipulations dated April 30th, 2014. County arborist to approve a fully planted 25-foot buffer adjacent to the single-family houses. And all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 23? There's one person opposed, Mr. Chairman, so we'll pull that off and hear that one. And that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman, board.
okay. Did you want to take an opportunity to try and call us for OB 20?
We will call that person, Mr. Chairman.
I think we'll recall.
You've already called them? So what, do we want to pull it and put it on the regular or just,
Let's put it on regular right now. If he comes
Okay.
in, we'll put it back on consent.
okay. Sure, go ahead.
This is not my case, but I'm curious to know if an item is on consent, does it require the applicant to still be present for that matter to be?
They should be here, but it's up to the board's discretion whether they want to consider it
Okay,
or
does
not.
anybody have an issue with the applicant?
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I met with the applicant and there's not really an issue. I'm fine with it staying on consent.
Okay. We're fine, we'll leave it on consent.
Okay. So right now we have OB 21 off consent and OB 23 off consent.
Right, correct. So I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda as revised. Have a second, any discussion? Call the question. It passes 5-0. All right.
Okay. Moving into the continued case agenda. Rezoning case Z15 of 2017, Curly Family Homes LLC. Request rezoning from R30 to R20 OSC for the purpose of a single-family residential use in land lot 198 of the 20th District. The property is located on the east side of Ackworth Due West Road, north of Stylesboro Road. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z15? Please raise your hands. Let the record show there are 8 people here opposed to rezoning case Z15. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good enough. I will need that.
Wait, see if John's ready. Ready? Okay, all right. Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Kevin Moore. I'm here on behalf of the property owners of this 34.2 acre tract located off Ackworth Due West Road, and as well as the applicant, which is Curly Family Homes. Curly Family Homes is locally owned and operated home building business here in Cobb, and has been so for quite some time. It does an excellent job in building homes here in Cobb County in a variety of locations. And this is their proposal for rezoning of this 34 acre tract from this existing category of R30 to a proposed R20 open space community, or R20 OSC. We've been working on this project and this proposal for quite some time. The proposal now is for a maximum of 42 homes, which is a density of 1.23 units per acre. 1.23 units per acre. That has been reduced from the initial application, which was for 54 homes at 1.5 units per acre. I'm going to step over and talk a little bit about the area and the plan itself to go through why we believe this particular OSC, or open space community, is not only appropriate, but a far better plan for development than as is currently zoned. Just to give you a sense of what is surrounding this property, which is certainly important in any zoning, and especially important as it relates to an open space community. Here you see the proposed site plan and the 34 acres. And we're just going to go around. On the north side is zoned R20. That's an R20 subdivision. That subdivision, however, was built at a time when sewer wasn't available, and so it's actually septic tank lots and not sewer lots, because they, at that point in time, were not required to go get sewer when that was developed and built. So it's large lots. Those are about acre lots, and so it's about 1 unit per acre, but that's because of the septic, and it's a nice subdivision, quality subdivision. You'll hear from some of those nice folks here today. Continuing around to the east side, you also have R20, but this is an R20 straight layout. It's zoned R20, R20 lots, 20,000 square foot lots. All of this is R20, and that subdivision is 1.73 units per acre. To the south, you have R30, which are larger R30 homes that were built many years ago as you come along the south side here. As you go across Ackworth Due West Road, you have R30 and R20, as well as an R20, R30 OSC that's located almost across the street in this location, Millstone at Walnut Creek. That's an OSC that was approved at 1.86 units per acre. And it also had variances to reduce the required amount of open space by almost a third. And that's located, again, directly across the street. So in general, what we have in the surrounding area in terms of density is not only just surrounding, but what's proximate and adjacent to us in this one little circle here is densities ranging from anywhere from a low of about 1 unit per acre to a high of 1.86 units per acre. What we are proposing here, again, is 1.23 units per acre on the very low end of that scale, trying to make sure that what we are is consistent and compatible from a density and development standpoint, and being sensitive to that. And that's why we have proposed a total of 42 homes. In addition, it's important when we look at this type of OSC layout, what we have is open space. That open space is where streams are located. Part of, and one of the goals of open space communities is to make sure that there is permanent dedication and preservation of streams and stream buffers. Otherwise, those streams and stream buffers become parts of lots. They're included within the lots without using the open space community. And what we have shown over and over again, this property, if you just, for example, rezoned it R20 and had all 20,000 square foot lots, just like it is adjacent to us on this side, zoned to the same category as it is on the north side. If you have 20,000 square foot lots, we have a very comfortable site plan showing 45 lots of 20,000 plus square feet each. And what you miss, though, is all of this area that you see in green is then inside the lots. It's part of somebody's home, part of somebody's property. It's not, however, set aside as permanently dedicated conservation easement open space that protects the streams and buffers, which is not only environmentally sound, it's what stormwater would like to see, it's what site planner and development would like to see, and that is to protect these areas permanently. That's one of the goals of OSC. There's multiple goals in OSC. That's one of them, and that we are trying to do in this case because we think it's a better plan of development. When you look around Cobb County, you look around this area in West Cobb County, many and quite a number of the best subdivisions that we have are OSC type developments. Those go back to when we had the old PRD or a planned residential development. Then we went into OSC. Those subdivisions over and over again that have this type of layout, that have this type of flexibility and design are some of our best subdivisions because it sets aside all of this area that is accessible for the future residents. But yet, as we're showing and demonstrating here, it's not for the purpose of simply gaining some more density or using the rules of OSC to gain more lots. As you can certainly see here at 42, at 1.2 units per acre, this is not about gaining more lots. What it's about is a better way to develop this property, given that under its current zoning of R30, you could have 38 homes here with no stipulations, not a single one. We wouldn't come before this board. All we would do would be submitting site plans for permitting, and as long as they met the minimum requirements of Cobb County zoning ordinance, it would be built. Instead, what we've been able to do is develop stipulations which not only protect the permanent areas that are shown in green here, but also stipulations as it relates to the homes. These homes are projected to be $500,000 and $600,000 homes, very compatible to this area. These are high-end homes, and we think we can build, and Curley Family Homes believes it will absolutely be able to execute on doing an upscale subdivision. This is an ideal location for it. Those types of protections that are contained within our stipulation letter over and over again only help to benefit the surrounding area by providing assurances that this subdivision will indeed be compatible to theirs. And in fact, what this is simply an area in West Cobb along Ackworth Due West Road where you see subdivisions after subdivisions that are built R20, R30, mostly R20s, subdivisions that are built all ranging from 1 to 2 units per acre in each of those subdivisions. And these are just subdivisions after subdivisions, and that's great. That's part of the West Cobb fabric that we have. In this instance, that's what we're proposing here on this 34.2 acres. And I do think it's important to note that this property is currently owned by two owners. Those are estates, and this property is being sold. It has to be sold. It's being sold, and it will be developed. This is not a situation where simply delaying the issue from a zoning standpoint somehow puts development off in some far-off future. This is owned by states that need to be able to sell this property, and they have to be able to sell this property, so it will be developed. So really the question is, what is the best development plan? Is it one that respects the environment by permanently protecting streams and stream buffers by taking those out of the ownership of private homeowners and lots and placing those in a permanent conservation easement where it's maintained by a homeowners association, where there's a conservation easement that's granted to Cobb County that permanently protects those streams and stream buffers, having flexible site design with minimum lot sizes of 13,000 and greater. That's flexible site design. That's quality development. Quality, good development looks like this. And that's what looks like West Cobb. It looks like East Cobb in certain areas as well. This is quality, good development that's compatible from a density standpoint, so that what we're not doing is simply jacking up the number of homes. Instead, what we're doing is taking what's otherwise available from a density standpoint and putting flexible, good, creative site design, permanently protecting stream buffers, and adding that so that we can have stipulations and conditions of zoning that help actually protect those homes for our neighbors as well. That's what we're proposing here today, is an OSC that creates compatible, consistent, high-quality development for this site. I'm here, I can answer any questions that you might have. The representatives of Curley Family Homes can as well. We're certainly happy to discuss any issues you may have, but we certainly would respectfully request that this board follow the recommendation of the Cobb County Planning Commission and approve this requested rezoning, subject to our stipulation letter dated May 31 that contains all of the items that I've discussed and a whole lot more. With that, we very much appreciate your consideration here today. Thank you.
And now those in opposition?
Good morning. My name is Peter Amlingmeyer. I am the president of the Oak Mountain Farm Homeowners Association. I'm speaking this morning on behalf not only of our neighborhood, which is directly adjacent to this property, but other neighbors in this area. Yesterday, part of our group met with Commissioner Weatherford to express our concern over the latest stipulation letter, where we saw that there was vagueness and there were omissions, and we really believe that this needs to be improved. And we recognized and identified 5 areas that we would like to put on the record with you folks. First thing is a better definition of the square footage of the homes in this subdivision. Initially, when this application was filed, homes were listed to be at 3,300 to 4,200 square feet. In the May 31st stipulation letter, they were talking about 2,500 square feet for a ranch and 3,000 square feet for a 2-story. In addition, the stipulation letter prior to the 531 stipulation letter stated that 3 sides would be architectural. In this stipulation letter, it just says the exteriors would be architectural, and they did not stipulate 3 sides. We really need to have that stipulated specifically, that 3 sides will be architectural with stone, brick, etc. It also says, too, that in terms of sodding, not all 4 sides of the house will be sodded. If this is to be a quality subdivision that is to be in concert with our neighborhood to maintain what we're trying to maintain here, to protect and preserve our neighborhood and our values, it certainly seems appropriate that sodding should be all the way around the lot. Number 4, so that we feel comfortable with what is going on to be built in this neighborhood, we think that an official part of the stipulation letter should be actual pictures of the elevations of the homes to be built. That way the builder will comply with what those pictures are, and our neighborhoods will be more assured of the quality of home that is being built by Curley Family Homes. Finally, number 5, stipulation number 23 states that there will be a protected buffer on the southern border of this property. Oak Mountain Farms is really erroneously zoned as R20. As Mr. Moore stated, Because there was no sewer in our area when our homes were built in the late 80s and 90s, they had to be built on acre lots. Why the county did not amend the land use plan to show this as an R40, or for Ms. Ripel, whose lot should really be an R80, has left us open into this argument about an R20. There is ample code references that I mentioned to the Planning Commission about the fact that with the kind of lots that Oak Mountain Farm has, it is totally appropriate for there be a minimum of a 25-foot guaranteed buffer, as opposed to a 35-foot construction buffer that Mr. Moore mentioned at the last meeting, which is not permanent. So we have no control over that. We think that with what is going on with other zonings that have been held and have been approved, as well as Cobb County Code, that buffer, a permanent buffer protecting our neighborhood, is totally appropriate. Those are the items that we identified with Commissioner Weatherford that we truly believe need to be tightened up and need to be specific for anything to be of value in this stipulation letter. Thank you.
One for the clerk and the rest for the commissioners, please. And then I'm going to have forms for you. Good morning. My name is Kelly Gambrell, and I'm president of People Looking After Neighborhoods, and we support the adjacent neighbors to this development. The open space design is intended to result in a more efficient use of land and encourage design flexibility, creativity, and development complementary to the surrounding and existing neighborhoods. The site plan that is being considered today does not reflect this. The applicant submitted an R20 straight plan depicting 54 homes. Staff noted 12 lots appear to be too impacted by stream buffers to be viable. If you remove the 12 lots that staff said were not viable, the site plan would look like this. Staff did not comment, or the comments were not available for this R20 straight plan, which actually has 45 units, not the 42 units as stated in the development summary box, to which various calculations were created from. Questions arise if the site plan and lots are viable. The applicant did not submit an R30 site plan. Why not? The only common aspect of these site plans is the stream and the required 75-foot buffers that cannot be disturbed except crossing the stream for transportation purposes. Section 134-198-1B1 allows stream buffers to be included in the primary conservation area. However, Section 134-198-1B5 defines open space and what can be included. However, stream buffers are not defined as being allowed in open space, and this paragraph goes as far as to say, quote, such activities are not conducted within primary conservation areas. If code defines the stream buffers as the primary conservation area and not open space, the site plan submitted does not reflect code and has misrepresented what is the actual open space and is to be the integral part of the planned community. Section 134-198-1F7 states overall residential development shall be compatible with neighboring residential uses. While Oak Mountain subdivision is R20, it is actually developed as an R40. Ms. Ripel's lot is R30, but developed as an R80. Each year, the county amends the comprehensive land use plan to reflect these developments. These areas have not been considered for land use changes. Why? The planning board and comments made by Mr. Weatherford in our meeting yesterday allude to the fact that since the map says R20, it is reasonable that this parcel be R20 as well. The map is in conflict with how the area is actually developed. The 2030 Comprehensive Plan, which is the policy guideline for which this board has extensive language pertaining to the loss of rural character in West Cobb. Keeping the rural character of West Cobb intact will require active involvement from the government, the community at large, and development interest. That is why we are here today. Section 134-198, 1F13, density calculations and required open space. Per code definitions, the developer has not provided even the minimum open space as required of 35% for R20. Cobb County Code has clearly defined and differentiated between primary conservation area and open space and should not be ignored. This rezoning application is mixing subjective information with facts to their benefit and mocking the relevance of code. We ask that you deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the board on this issue? Seeing none, Commissioner Weatherford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As previously stated, we've had numerous meetings. We had meetings yesterday as well as with planning and zoning and with the applicant regarding this application. And some changes have been recommended, changes have been changed since it first was submitted. I have a few comments and questions of staff. Mr. Westbrook, sorry, can I get you up here, sir, please. The first question is in comments, and I'm not sure if you're the one to address it, but it states that there is a circa 1850 home on this property, and we have not been able to locate that home, and wondering if staff comments are erroneous.
That would be our historic preservationist, and I believe Mandy, is there a home? There is no home
So,
on this property
okay,
with that.
it's what I've been told, but that's not what it says in there.
There's no home. There's no home, that historic
I'm
home
sorry.
of relevance on the site.
I just want to make sure they don't have to protect something that's not there.
Hi, Mandy Elliott. There is no, when I reviewed this case, I did not find a potential historic structure on the property.
So what we have is erroneous?
Correct, yes, it is erroneous, and I apologize for any confusion.
Okay, I just want clerk to note that for the record, when we, if approved, we would say, you know, all staff comments, that particular one is not there. So, thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I wasn't sure exactly if you knew the answer. I was trying to save a trip.
By the way, Philip Westbrook Community Development.
Wait, I'm not done with you yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Some of the comments were made about the future land use map, et cetera, et cetera. Do you recall if this has been addressed, this area in the new plan or not?
This has not been addressed. We don't have the staff resources to go through every single property and take a look at the land use and take a look at the zoning and find out whether they're incompatible or not. You know, and also, I think there was some talk that they were talking about changing the land use plan to a different zoning. Well, we're talking two different zonings. Zoning and future land use is two different areas.
Correct, yes, okay.
And it's okay for property to not be compatible with the future, or the zoning not be compatible with the future land use, because the future land use is a
So this is something we
guideline.
don't typically go back and correct if it's already been built for 30 years or 40 years or something like that.
Unless we're asked,
Okay.
we don't typically go back and do that.
This was some of the comments from Ms. Gambrell, and just to note, I believe we appointed her to this committee, so hopefully she can take a look at that, and if that's something she needs to be changed, then she can make that recommendation
That's certain.
as my appointee. Okay, great. All right, thank you. And then there were some comments about what can be built. Staff recommends that in R30, or states in R30, you could do 37 homes, and that's still subject to site plan, but that's what staff calculation
That's
is.
correct.
And R20 would be somewhere around,
Mid-40s.
45, 47?
42, 45, somewhere around there.
okay. So that's still what staff would say.
That's correct.
All right, good. Thank you, sir. All right, I have Got my questions answered, sir. I'm ready to go forward with a little discussion and then make a recommendation. This particular one, is stated by staff, is at 42, which is a 1.2 units per acre, which is less or slightly more than a R30 would allow. And as stated by the applicant, R30 would not allow us to have any input into it as opposed to green space buffers, et cetera. So in that regard, I believe this is a good application. 1.2 units per acre is well within the future land use plan for this area. And a good with 35% green space. I think this is a very viable proposal. Respect to the comments by Mr. Amlichmeyer for HOA, these are valid, and if I could I get Mr. Moore to come back up and ask him a quick question, sir? Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
In respect to the buffers that are on the southern side, and can you state about any possible buffers on the northern side? Is there physical limitations or things of that nature or reasons? Can you show his map back up there?
Can you just go back to the site plan?
Yeah. Now, this is a heavily wooded area, and the lots that are
Yes.
in the northern part are stated by the HOA as acre lots. So, you know, they have large, deep lots, but I'm assuming that at the end of their lot, they can see nothing but trees.
Yes, the area that you're describing, so that those that are can visually see, is along this is that particular subdivision. These, like I said, are very deep lots, heavily wooded to the rear. The buffer, or question about a buffer, is along this this shared property line here. There are, one of the reasons why we had not proposed one already is twofold. Number one, Cobb development ordinances require there to be, in this case, it would be a 35-foot undisturbed buffer during construction along that shared property line. So we felt like the protection was there from that standpoint. Also, we felt that that length of stretch to create an undisturbed buffer would create a no man's land between homes. These aren't different densities from a compatibility standpoint, and what we felt we were doing was creating an area that would be a no man's land. That is, by creating a buffer along there, who keeps it up, where does it go, how does that maintained, or how is that dealt with? But that's just kind of giving you some context, and the board some context of why we chose not to do it there, just because it was a length of property line. You know, we've looked at it, and from our standpoint, what we could do is we could put in a 10-foot undisturbed buffer along that stretch, which will make sure that that's permanently protected. You know, again, noting that Cobb development requirements have that be a 35-foot undisturbed buffer during construction. So that protection is there. And if that will add some protection and add it to them, then we can do that from a physical layout standpoint and still continue to make everything work and the layout work.
Can you explain in your definition what 35-foot undisturbed construction buffer is versus a undisturbed buffer?
Sure. A 35-foot undisturbed buffer during construction just means during development and during construction of the homes, that stretch along here, along that shared property line, would have an undisturbed buffer, meaning you can't disturb it. You can't grade it, you can't take it down. I mean, it's not that's what it means, but what it means, and I think that your question is, then what happens? What happens is that once you have homes and once the COs are issued, and you have home buyers, that quote undisturbed portion of the buffer, that undisturbed buffer, goes away. It's no longer a requirement because individuals own that. 99 times out of 100, those individuals will still leave it that way. It's their woods, it beautifies their lot. You know, they may do something, but they may clean it up or something like that, but most of the time it will remain that way. But it won't be permanent, undisturbed, meaning a restriction on their lots and on, but if we put in a 10-foot, at least what it does is make it permanent and make that an encumbrance on those particular homeowners in the future.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have a question? No.
I just have some comments. I mean, as the chairman and my fellow board members know, I was on the committee that wrote the OSC. Okay, and the intent of the green space, Mr. Moore is correct that it trades privately owned green space to publicly owned or HOA-owned green space. That's a correct statement. However, it was not intended to protect stream buffers. Regardless of whether you build a R20, R30, you can't build on them. It doesn't matter what type of lot you have, you cannot build on a stream buffer. And so the green space was not intended to protect that because it's already protected. The green space was intended to protect large lots like we see on the north side here from the small lots that OSC allows. And so the very buffer or green space that's supposed to be there is not there. The smallest lots front to back on the north here are up against the large lots with, as Mr. Moore just correctly stated, a 35-foot construction buffer means that there will be nothing there because those lots are the narrowest front to back. Those folks aren't going to leave the trees there. There's not enough room to build a house and have a yard. So we are hung up on density. OSC was not about density. OSC was about allowing smaller lots in an area that has larger lots and protecting those larger lots who were there first by putting green space buffer protections to basically hide those smaller lots from the larger lots and the people driving along the road. The idea was if somebody comes into the neighborhood and wants to buy a 7,000 square foot lot, great. But the people that are already living there weren't supposed to have to put up with the 7,000 square foot lots. And that's why the green space was there. And the idea of using the trees on the existing lots for the buffer to screen this, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, it is never the intent of OSC to use someone else's trees to buffer a new development that's coming in. The intent was if you're going to build an OSC, you put in the buffer, you put in the green space to protect the people that are already there. I mean, you know, Mr. Moore is talking about how, oh, well, these people, they have deep lots because of the septic and we can use their trees to buffer it. That's totally wrong way to approach this. And so right now, there is no way I can support this because to me, this is almost the poster child of what's wrong with OSC right now is how it's being used.
Commissioner Burrow?
Yes. Sorry. Okay, so having said all that, are we is he within the 35% buffer open space requirement?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And the architectural styles, you're adding that to the still?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
And we are in the process of amending the OSC, but this case was in prior to that discussion. Okay. I'll wait to hear the other comments.
Commissioner Burrow, Cupid.
Yes, I have some questions for Philip Westbrook. Good
Philip
morning.
Westbrook, Community Development.
Yes, good morning. I need your help in interpreting the code that was provided to us from one of the speakers this morning regarding the OSC district.
Okay. I don't have a copy of it, but
Yeah, I'd like for you to get a copy because
okay.
you know, this part of the discussion today reflects why we are taking another look at the open stream buffer, but I've found it interesting to look at definition B1, where it refers to what does not qualify as OSC, and it includes required stream buffers. In the presentation this morning, the stream buffers were included in the calculation for open space. Would that have been protected space anyway that could not be built upon?
It can't be built upon, but as mentioned earlier, lots can encroach into those stream buffers. And
Okay.
the definition B1, primary conservation area, those are just primary areas. They must be in open, those primary conservation areas, according to the OSC, have to be in open space. Must be in open space.
Repeat that sentence.
The B1, primary conservation areas, is just stating that those particular areas, those particular conservation areas have to be in the open space. They have to be calculated in the open space. So in other words, a floodplain, stream buffers, all
Okay.
of that,
It has to
they
be included.
have
It's
to-
not
it
saying
has to
should
be in the open
included.
space.
Okay, because if I read this again, it says the following are considered primary conservation areas and should be included within open space.
Required open space.
Required open space, comma, unless the applicant demonstrates that this provision would constitute an unusual hardship and be counter to the purposes of this district, in which case property may not qualify for OSC. So it would be the applicant that would have to say, don't include this because it would be a hardship.
Correct, and I
Okay.
believe
Okay.
that statement is in there for stuff like the local street crossing of the stream buffer and stuff like that.
Okay, and digesting that with you, I can understand why it's included.
Right.
I can see why Ms. Gambrill thought that it may not be included by the way it's worded, because it's not just immediately clear when you read that. But I appreciate you sharing that. I've heard a couple of definitions about what the purpose of open space is. And I think when I've had open space cases, some of our constituents have even viewed it differently than what I've heard here today. What is the purpose of an open space community?
It's basically, it allows smaller lot sizes, flexibility in lots, so that we can preserve open space, green space, natural land, and the intent of that preservation, it could be anything from buffering, it can be anything from stormwater management, watershed plan management, passive recreation, just scenic beauty, wildlife habitat. There's many purposes to preserve the open space, and the code and the ordinance actually goes into all those specificities, but it basically is essential, focuses and clusters homes so that we can preserve green space for all of those positive aspects of preserving green space.
Okay, thank you.
Hope that helps.
Thank you, yeah, it was, yeah, did you?
Yeah. All right, go ahead. Let's follow up.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I have a question.
Okay, wait, sure, go ahead.
One quick clarification, piggybacking on Commissioner Cupid. Commissioner Ott stated that it was the intent of this, but is the intent in here that he refers to is it be used as buffering between large lots and smaller lots? I don't recall seeing that in here.
I wouldn't say it can be an intent, but I don't say it's the only intent. There's several others that, like I mentioned earlier, open space can be used and intended for buffering, as well as preserving green space for watershed management, passive recreation.
Got it.
So
if the intent, according to Commissioner Ott, was that when they were on the committee to do this, they apparently didn't turn that into must be. So hopefully when we get to
Which is why it's being
going for-
fixed now.
Pardon you?
That's why it's being fixed.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say, which is why it's being fixed now, because apparently it wasn't put in properly before. So I don't think we should hold what we've been using for, 12, 15 years now hostage to that. So in your opinion, that this meets the standards and the criteria for an open space community?
According to the existing code, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Except that you recommended R30 OSC.
That is our zoning office that recommended that.
Oh, so you're throwing
That
him. You're
wasn't my,
Do you work for that office?
no, sir. I'm in the planning division.
Do you, community development?
I'm in community development.
All right, so it's a small bus, but you're still, you know. All right, so who's the guy that recommended R30 OSC? Okay, so let me have them at the microphone. Somebody, well, he doesn't want to be part of your department today, so he can sit down. All right.
Thank you, thank you, Philip. I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Before Mr. Peterson answers your question as to what his recommendation is in the zoning, can I provide two clarifications?
Please.
Sure, absolutely.
There are sections in the zoning ordinance for OSC that talk about the size of the exterior lots up against adjacent subdivisions, and I think that's what Commissioner Ott was referring to when he was talking about the compatibility between the OSC subdivisions and existing subdivisions in the area. And there is existing code within the OSC ordinance that tries to get them to line up as best as possible so that you have less of an impact of the smaller lots adjacent to larger lot subdivisions. And the second point to something that Commissioner Cupid brought up in regard to stream buffers versus open space, there is a really important distinction in that because the open space is dedicated through either a conservation easement or restrictive covenant, where a stream buffer is not. And you can go in and you can go into a stream buffer and remove trees. You just can't remove roots. It's a very important distinction because a stream buffer has no protection to it other than land disturbing activities. That means if you have an unprotected stream buffer, someone can go in and do they can do maintenance of it with hand tools. You just cannot use a piece of mechanical equipment to go in and disturb the land within a stream buffer. So it's a very important distinction of why the stream buffers were included in the overall open space community to make sure there was a permanent protection of no activity happening within those stream buffers.
I'm still not clear about
That's
the,
sobering,
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
that'd be a sight to see, you know, 29 stumps.
Well, I think part of what Dana's trying to say is the stream buffer, the idea was that if you allow any disturbance of the dirt around the stream,
Right.
and so by removing the roots, then
Right.
you would allow that.
Sure.
So that's it. When it was written, it said that it had to be in there basically to say that you can't consider it as something that you can disturb.
Correct.
But it wasn't intended for it to be the only open space.
Absolutely, and that's why there was a percentage of usable land that was supposed to be incorporated into the open space to make sure it wasn't just bad land being utilized.
And that's in here, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
But the open space is commonly owned land,
Yes, sir.
so it cannot be used in the determination of the lot sizes.
I am not sure that's
If it's commonly
completely
owned,
accurate.
it can't be owned by two people. It's either,
But
it's either owned by the
but
development.
before you are calculating your density, you're basically doing it off of the gross acreage of the overall development, so that so the good land can be used in the calculation of the density. However, they still have to set some aside as it relates to the layout of the overall development. And I'm sure Mr. Peterson will correct me if I stated that incorrectly.
All right, so,
To your point,
yeah,
while the open space is used for a density calculation, it's not as an individual lot. So it's
Correct.
not owned by the property owners privately.
right.
So you are correct in that.
Okay, so Kevin, these properties up on the north side, what are their lot sizes?
It says so.
Well, I can't see it because I have 7-year-old eyes.
13 and up.
What are those lot sizes?
to answer the question, if we start.
I helped him out.
That's right, he's good.
Okay, yeah, I had to look at that's why I have this one up here, but it ranges from just over 22,000 square feet from here.
Right.
It goes down to 14,000 square feet and back up to 17,000 square feet. So
So it ranges from 14 to 20-something.
What are the depths of the lot?
the depths of these lots are, they range from a depth of 120 feet, and then they go up to 160 feet. But if I could point out, when we, and I've on the backside of this board if I need to point it out, if it would help. But if you lay out an R20 layout, or if you lay out it, all you're doing is making these lots wider, because this is where the street has to go off of Ackworth due west. So we've very intentionally tried to make sure that we only have 10 lots here, so that it matched up with Oak Mountain. Yes, they don't have the depth, but it's just a matter of width at that standpoint. These are all a minimum of 100 feet in width, so that you can have that level of nice wide lots, lots of separation between the homes. And that's how this layout on that side doesn't really change dramatically at all if you just make the lots bigger, because they just get a little bit wider, but that you still have that number of lots along this northern boundary.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. So, thank you, Commissioner. So why did the staff recommend R30 OSC?
Yes, sir. Hey, Tim Pierce, can you put up a GIS map that has the zoning layer on it, please? Sure. Mr. Chairman, Board, the reason why staff did that is because we took a look at the area overall, and it is a mix of R20 and R30, but primarily surrounding this property are very large lots. With the exception of 4 or 5 lots on Stephanie Court, which is in the northeast corner, all the lots that abut this are pretty large lots. Those lots on Oakville Lane, I believe, are at least an acre in size, maybe 3/4 of an acre. So we just felt it would fit in better with the area if it was an R30 OSC. If you look directly across the street, there's an R30 OSC right there. There's one. Then there's an R20 OSC, I think, right? Further north. We just felt that with what's around it, the R30 would fit in better.
Okay. What I'm getting at is that I'm a pretty simple guy. We have R20, and we want to accommodate smaller lot sizes. We're gonna have open space, all right? But as I look at the site plan here, some of the lots are down on the inside or under 15,000 square feet. So what we've done is we've inadvertently gone down to R15 lots, sort of, kind of. And I think that the intent of the code was to make the lots, make them lots smaller, but not that much smaller to account for the green space, for the open space. So I can live with a lot size that's between 15 and 20. OSC, R20 OSC, but I have a real hard time convincing myself without rationalizing that the lot sizes can go down to 13 or 14,000 square feet. I don't think that was the intent of the code. I think, it's a stretch for me to do that. So I thought that if we could, since many of the lots in there were 17,000 square feet, why didn't we just have some sort of adjust the lot sizes to reflect that, other than the fact that you would get fewer houses, but still, you would meet, I would think, the intent of the RSC, of the R20 OSC code. That's my thought pattern.
Couple of things.
Sure.
Previous in the past, and in the majority of these that are built, I don't know the minimum lot sizes, but the previous ones that have been in this area have been minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. And we've been trying to slowly get that up, and this is a minimum of 13,000. So we have precedent of 10,000 square feet. Which I thought was way too small, which is a 60% reduction from R30 to R10. The average here is over 13, almost 14,000. So in conjunction with the surrounding ones, it's not what you say, but better than what it's been. Could you tell us what approximately R30 OSC would give us in lots, sir?
It would probably be 40 to 41 lots. They started off at 54. They're at 42 right now, so they're almost there anyway.
Yeah, they're almost on R30 OSC anyways.
But John, wouldn't they need more open space?
They would need more open space. But that would just be a matter of chopping off the back of some of those lots in that southern pod or the eastern pod. You know, but
leave the roots there.
yes, sir.
I'm ready to make a motion. Anybody has anything?
Any more comments from the board? Commissioner Cupid?
Just a clarifying question, what's the minimum lot size for R30 and R20?
Under OSC, for R30 or just OSC?
R30 and R20.
Okay, for R20, it's 20,000 square feet. For R30, it's 30,000 square
And then
feet.
with OSC?
Well, the law says OSC, there is no minimum lot size.
Okay, I see. Okay,
Right.
okay.
That's what we're trying to bring up. All right, thank you.
For comments? All right, it's all yours, Commissioner Weatherford.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve Z15 from the current zoning R30 to R20 OSC, subject to the letter stipulation dated 5/31/17 from Kevin Moore, with the following additional stipulations. I would like to add stipulation 6, E, that homes shall have 3-sided architectural finishes. Add to 6F, any deviation from the actual elevation attached shall come back before the Board of Commissioners as other business items for approval as opposed to minor modifications by the District Commissioner. Add to number 9 that homes shall have sod on all 4 sides of their homes. And add to number 23 that there shall be along with 35-foot construction buffer, once construction is completed, that there will be a 10-foot undisturbed buffer along all lots 5 through 10 to be owned and maintained by its lot owners, that all trees, et cetera, shall remain. That's my motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Any further discussion? Call the question. And it passes 3-2 with Commissioner Ott and Chairman in opposition. Okay, good job. Why don't we take a short break? About 10 minutes, that work for everybody? Okay, we're back at 10:25, thank you. Okay, we're back from our short break and got a temporary fill here for Mr. Peterson. Fortunately, we have a very competent individual and Director Johnson here. And our next case, I believe, is Z25, right?
That is correct.
And-
That is correct. Z25 is up next, sir.
All right, and that's Commissioner Burrow's case.
And Z25, sir, is to rezone a piece of property on Atlanta Road from CRC and LI to FST. And this is on the west side of Atlanta Road, just south of Ledford Street, sir.
Okay, so I believe Mr. Sams?
Can I get a show of people who are opposed to this case? Please raise your hands.
Interesting.
Let the record show there are 4 people opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Mr. Chairman, while that's coming forward, there's another business application that was on the consent agenda, Medical Development Corporation, which is other business, or Z33, I forget what the other business is now, but we had one person show up in opposition to it, and that person, we've chatted with her, and we are ready to make a statement that we certainly are agreeable to maintaining the fence on Shiloh Pass as agreed to back in 2014, but eliminating the fence along the Arden Trace common property line. By the way, my name's Garvis Sams, and I represent Medical and Development Corporation. Ms. Susan Cummings is here, and she wanted to make that a matter of public record, and I hope that's satisfactory to you, Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner Burrow and the board.
We'll go ahead and do this case first, and then come back to that one, okay? Is that all right with you?
Oh, certainly. I thought John wanted to take this one out of order. Thanks.
Here's,
While he's booting up the information, I just take this minute to introduce myself, and I'm going to set a timer here because I want to talk, and then I'm going to have my land planner, Mr. Tom Walsh. He's the W&TSW, one of the preeminent land planning firms who's worked with us on this project. And I also want to give a little bit of time to Tamina Khan, who is the property owner of the commercial tract just to the north of us. So anyway, if you got it pulled up. Let's go to the site aerial. I think that's number 1. Yeah, number 1. No, this number 1. That's the overall site plan. Again, my name is Sean Randall, Senior Vice President, Venture Homes. We've been building in Cobb County for 30 years. We're headquartered in Cobb County. We will build 330 to 350 homes, 200 of which will be in the Cobb County area. We are constructing a new 18,000 square foot corporate headquarters on Franklin Road. Well, the city leadership in Marietta now calls it Franklin Gateway, but I can remember when Franklin Road was a pretty tough road to drive down, not unlike this corridor. We believe in redevelopment, re-engineering, and replanning for tough neighborhoods. We've been doing it successfully, I think, in District 4, taking some very tough property that my friends at Lennar or Trayton or D.R. Horton would not develop, and we've made it work. This is a very interesting zoning case. And before I even open my mouth, I'm 0 for 2. Cobb County Schools is going to stand up and say they're opposed because of overcrowding. And then the staff is going to stand up and say they're opposed because we don't conform to the future land use. And I'm going to challenge this board to think about the future land use that was done 19 years ago. 19 years ago, in 1998, this property was zoned with the future land use of CAC and light industrial compatible. What's happened in that 19 years? I'm going to argue not a whole lot. You can see the site there. In that 19 years, particularly over the last 2 years, what's been rezoned in that corridor? I'll tell you. A gas station on Old Concord Road. Another gas station on Austell Road. There's one shopping center, Lockheed Village, that's kind of looks good and seems to be thriving, but it's got 2 or 3 vacant bays. Tamina Khan is going to come up and say she's working really hard to try to make her shopping center work, but it doesn't because there's not enough quality rooftops. There's apartments located on either side. If you go to the next slide up. 20 unit to the acre, if you'll just scroll up on that other one, I'm sorry. 20 unit to the acre product at Belmont Crossing. It was there 19 years ago, there it is. Belmont Crossing to the south, Madison Village to the north. Belmont Crossing just sold in September of 2016 at $1.2 million an acre, $56,000 a door. It's not going anywhere. I can remember delivering holiday gifts and food to needy families at Belmont Crossing and Madison Village in the 90s. Now, I will say there were trailers out in front of our property in the 90s. Those are gone. But nothing has really happened to that site since. And I would argue, because of those apartments and for what they're selling for and the cash flow that they're making, they're really not going to go anywhere either. This is residential property. You know, and I think in 1998, the feeling of the board was, let's try to redevelop this. Somebody surely will come in here, tear some of this stuff down. If we zone it light industrial, if we zone it neighborhood retail out front, somebody will tear this stuff down and make it work. That was 19 years ago. Still hasn't happened. I would also like to read from you from the Atlanta Road Corridor Study, 2017. It talks about proposed future land use changes from the Atlanta Road Corridor Study. Establishing a more coordinated land use pattern, such as discouraging strip development patterns with multiple driveways. We're going to have one way in, one way out for 59 units. Promoting the nodal concept of development and encouraging reuse and revitalization of obsolete commercial and industrial. Well, there's no obsolete commercial and industrial because it can't be developed on this site. The depth at the backside of this property is only 240 feet wide. You can't fit a commercial building on the property. Let me talk about Cobb schools for just a second. Spent a long time on the telephone with Dennis Campbell, and he says the metric is a very simple metric. It's 0.7 students for every new home, 200 to 300 to 400,000. So our community will generate 40 new students. Those students are divided about 50-50, elementary school to high school. So we're going to put 20 new students in Green Acres, 2 blocks over a 4-year period. If we can't take our SPLOST money and figure out how to address that over the next 4 years, I'm not certain I can build anywhere in this county. So the other thing I'd like to talk about is affordable housing. I met with Michael Murphy, Ron Siphon last week about affordable housing. How do we do it in Cobb County? This can be a place for that. 220s to 280s. Sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but that's affordable in Cobb County. I can structure a program for Cobb County employees where they can live here. We typically give $2,500 if you use our preferred lender in closing costs. And that's the big problem. Most people can't do the down payment, and then they can't do the closing costs. I'm willing to offer a program for Cobb County employees, first responders, firefighters, school teachers, that teacher that works at Green Acres. If they have a household income of $50,000, it's $1,200 a month to buy a $220,000 house today. That's less money they pay in rent at the Battery. And it's a chance to really help this corridor. So I'm willing to make an offer. Our normal is $2,500. I'm willing to make it to $3,500 for any Cobb County employee that buys in this neighborhood. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to twist Bob White, our CEO's arm, to make it across the board for all of our neighborhoods, which we have probably 10, 12 active in Cobb right now. I think, let me check my time here. I think there's some very important things that we also need to talk about, which is what will this community look like? And what's happening across the street? There's 600 to 800 new jobs at Lockheed from Georgia Tech. Our homeowners would be able, if you scroll up to the next slide, our homeowners would be able to walk to work. What do you hear at every rezoning? Traffic. Our homeowners could walk to work. And I'm not saying all those people are going to buy in our neighborhood, of course not. But it will be a chance to do something exciting for this neighborhood. I also want to tell you, I spent 2 hours on the telephone with Patrick Small, who was the matrix design guy that led the charge on the 2015 joint use study with Dobbins. That's going to come up. Are we in the noise cone? Are we not in the noise cone? By ordinance, which is the 2011 AQ study, we are not. We are not in the noise cone ordinance or zone. We're not in the potential air hazard zone. But in 2015, they tweaked the lines a little bit. But Patrick went on to great lengths to say, these are guidelines. And the other fascinating thing he said was, you can do that noise study just about any time of the year, different times, depending on the aircraft flying in and out. He said that noise cone will shift a little bit. But we are even in the 2015, we're barely inside that noise cone. I've been on that site for hours. I've heard nothing. I hear more C-130s flying in my home in Sandy Springs behind Rays on the River than I've ever heard on that side in that location of Cobb Park, of Atlanta Road. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom. He'll talk about the real pretty things, and then Tamina, who I've got to compliment her. She spent yesterday in the rain slogging through, got 27 signatures of homeowners in the area in support of this. But the most interesting thing, and I know we've got some opposition here today, and I'm willing to address some of their concerns, but the most interesting thing she said to me was, Sean, if I knocked on a door, no one said no. No one she talked to was opposed to this. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, I'll turn it over to Tom, and we can talk about pretty pictures and how this is going to be the best project in the Atlanta Road corridor.
Except that you used all your time. Sorry.
Would the opposition please come forward?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners. My name is Dennis Campbell. I'm Director of Planning for the Cobb County School District. This particular application does present some concerns for the Cobb County School District in that it will likely increase student population at least one overcrowded school and temporarily for a couple of other overcrowded schools in the area. Those would be Campbell High School, Campbell Middle School, and Green Acres Elementary. Campbell Middle School and Campbell High School will be relieved in the future with the new SPLOST that was passed by the voters after 2019, maybe 2020, 2021. Green Acres probably won't benefit from the, at least it isn't designated to benefit from the SPLOST at this time. So there is overcrowding at Green Acres, and we're very concerned about the amount of students that may come. The projection that Mr. Randall stated to you is correct, about 20 students, but understand 20 students is probably a classroom and a new teacher. That's a significant expense at the school. And this is just one development, and it's outside of anything else that might grow in the student area, school area. So for those reasons, we ask for your consideration and hope that you'll consider our concerns. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner. My name is Karen Burt. I'm property owner and longtime resident of Daniel Drive community. I'm not opposed to change. I am opposed to the high density of what the applicant is recommending for this area due to the lack of green space and the pretty much no buffer zone. He did mention the apartment complex. The particular apartment complex that he mentioned is the Belmont apartment complex. It is actually over density, and I do not feel that this increased density in this area is good for the area due to drainage issues that have been documented evidence in the past to the Daniel Drive residents, due to sewage issues. It's been documented past to the Daniel Drive residents. I've been a resident of that area for over 30 years and a resident of Cobb County over 50 years. And I just wanted to let y'all know how much I oppose this density that they're recommending for this plant. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Merle.
Thank you. Before I get into discussion and call some staff up, I would like to submit a letter from Mr. Ken Daniel, who also lives on Daniel Drive. with some pictures attached for the record. He spoke at the Planning Commission meeting, but he was not able to be here today. And I'd also like to ask Tanika, is it, to give her an opportunity to submit her letters in support of this project from the, I think, 27 neighbors that you knocked on doors. Can I do that? Okay. You can just come up and hand them to the clerk. You don't have to speak unless you want to.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to speak unless you want to. I'm just entering your petitions for the record.
But I'd like to actually say a few words.
But keep them brief, okay?
Very brief. Because you went over, I mean, you're speaking in the 10 minutes that have already been used, so I can't really,
Okay,
unless the opposition gets another minute. Well, she's not opposition. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I am a neighbor of this property at 1860. I'm at this location from 2005. And
You need to state your name.
my name is Tamina, last name is Khan. And I'm a property owner next to this property, and I'm here since 2005. We are really struggling to run our businesses or run the empty spaces. I only have 3 spaces filled. The rest of the shopping center is empty since 2005, since we built this location. I do not have foot traffic, and my tenants complained, for the foot traffic and quality customers. And we really wanted to have some development in this area to support the commercial property or commercial customer in this area. I think there are a lot of other commercial properties and rental properties, and they are vacant. And it's very difficult to fill these locations. So, and ever since 2005, we have no development in this location. We have no improvement. There's no street lights, and the same apartment and same, people, and it's actually not having any chance to improvement. I think this development will bring a quality resident and improve the part of this side of Atlanta and be comparable to the other side of Atlanta Road. So with that, I think, thank you very much.
And Jason, was she sworn in? Okay, thank you. This has been very challenging, very tough decision because I agree I'd like to see improvements in the area and support the affordable housing piece of this that we're considering throughout the county. I think the quality of venture homes is not the question here. I think nice townhomes would definitely be an improvement. We did hear from the overcrowding in the schools, and on the other side of that, we heard of the new jobs coming for the Georgia Tech research at Dobbins across the street. And the problem that I'm struggling with is the land use, and we know what can happen when industrial is converted to residential with noise and traffic and such as that. And the other concerns I have are the setback variances and the density of this project. Another issue that concerns me is the stormwater management. And I'd like to ask Bill Higgins if he would come up. Bill, I don't know if you are familiar with the letter from Mr. Daniel, Ken Daniel?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Can you? And you did hear from another neighbor, Karen Burtz. Daniel Drive down here is downstream from this project. What, can you kind of speak to the stormwater issue and runoff?
Well, what we noticed is one thing, the development, as it's currently proposed, would be in portions of the stream buffer, on that lot. And it looked like, I think, lots 19 and 65 could be impacted from that. And, as well, we noticed that, on the western side of the site, there's no well-defined receiving system to accept storm drainage from that side of the site. So the western side of the site would have to be diverted over to the stream that runs through the middle of the site, since that's really the only well-defined area. So to relieve Daniel Drive, there would have to be some over detention made, so that the flows would have to be throttled down below the pre-development levels to compensate for that diversion from the western side of the site. The last thing we noticed was that there is no indication of stormwater management facility on the site. So unless they intend to put the stormwater management underground somehow, there would have to be an allowance made for that, at least in the plan that I looked at.
Cornelius, can you put the site plan up? Because I'm showing 2 detention ponds on either side of the stream buffer.
Okay, that may be a later version of the plan that I looked at there.
Just a minute, Sean. Cornelius, can you put this site plan up? Yeah, what's in the book is obviously not showing it. I was told that the 2 circles on either side of the stream buffer are the detention.
Okay, that's a later version of the plan I saw. I see it there.
So
I see this, the allowance for the stormwater management facility has been made in this later version of the plan. So that concern that I had has been addressed. The other concern, I guess, is something to be taken care of in plan review, but since there's no defined drainage easement to the west, those lots on that side would have to be diverted over to those stormwater management facilities near the well-defined drainage feature. And they would have to be throttled down below the pre-development levels in order to compensate for that diversion, to protect Daniel Drive and other properties downstream. It's an older neighborhood, as I recall, and the drainage is kind of done to a different standard, I guess.
So when you say the west side, this whole section to the left?
Right, to the left. It looks like there's no really well-defined drainage feature on there to accept the runoff from those lots. So we were proposing that one thing that could be considered is that area to the left be diverted over to where they have the 2 drainage facilities shown.
Okay, and I think, well, I still think it may be too dense, and maybe without so many variances, maybe taking out some lots would help with that as well. I thank you, Bill. I appreciate your
certainly
assistance. I think I would like to hold this for 30 days to give the applicant and the neighbors that are opposed, Mr. Daniel and Ms. Burt's, an opportunity to meet with the applicant and me if need be, and also the Ms. Tanika in support with her neighbors, to see if we can get rid of the variances in the density and address the stormwater management and maybe try to work something out that would be beneficial and improve the area.
I'm gonna start with Commissioner Weatherford first. Commissioner Weatherford?
He said he's-
Thank you. Just a few comments. It appears that this development or any development that is built in this area, and nothing's been built there in quite a while, that stormwater management would be improved because we require things different than we did years ago. So I think the stormwater should be handled in plan review, and that's usually handled that way, and I don't think that would cause an issue and shouldn't be an issue. I think it's great that we can come in and redevelop this area. I've been through this area many times, and I think that any new development here would be an influx and a needed addition and would spur development. And then whether it's 65 homes or 60 homes or whatever, they will all be owned and they will be paying taxes, both to us and the school board. And it just kind of amazes me that 20 students would cause such an issue when 65 homes are paying school taxes that should be provided for by those taxes. So I think that, this affordable housing, this area needs to be redeveloped. If you can work out any minor issues that you think, Commissioner Burrell, I could support this.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
They get us mixed up.
There's no excuse. I'm sorry. Commissioner Cupid.
I support the comments shared by Commissioner Weatherford and appreciate Commissioner Burrell in desiring to hold the application to work with the developer. This area has a lot of potential, given the development that's been on Atlanta Road, but it's like Windy Hill has been the other side of tracks for this community here, which serves in, quite close proximity to a lot of the other positive development and could be included in that with this new plan. So I appreciate the developer and all who's been involved for even taking a look at this area. I believe that the comments provided by the resident are valid. I can understand why she wants to have stormwater considered, but Commissioner Weatherford did address that. That typically is done in plan review. And seeing the facilities that were on the site plan looks as if we could be adding to stormwater detention in that community, and hopefully that will help to relieve some of the issues going on with the creek that flows through Daniel Drive. So I'll just have to share, I'm in complete support of seeing something new here to provide some hope to this community, that Cobb County has not forgotten it, and to provide a boost to home and property values for the single-family residents that have been there, and to provide some pressure to the surrounding apartment complexes that they have some competition and they need to improve the quality of their stock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the big things that was mentioned here was the affordable housing. And I know we've all met with Michael, and I just had some meetings with some other folks yesterday. So I think it's a positive there, especially with the Georgia Tech Research Institute adding the jobs. To Commissioner Burrell's point about the industrial compatible, I understand her concerns, but I think if you look at this, and could you put up the GIS? I think if you look at this, when this was made industrial compatible, I think the thought process was that you would kind of develop the entire block more in a commercial or industrial. But if you were to put industrial on this lot, you've got this neighborhood right at the back end of it, which I think we would almost be creating the situation we get concerned about bringing industrial or bringing homes into industrial. So it almost seems to me that, this as industrial compatible probably wasn't a good idea with this neighborhood back there. Those homes have been there for a while. So I think that one of the things that staff might want to look at, or you might want to recommend to them, is kind of looking at the entire land use in this kind of triangle area and seeing if maybe industrial compatible is not the right thing. But I do think that ownership, we don't typically get ownership in an area like this, and I think that would be a huge positive. And I do think that it would be a little bit of a competition to the apartments to kind of get them to kind of move in the right direction. So, but I support holding it.
So my question is, since he made the offer to make this affordable housing for county employees, how do you put that into a stipulation?
Well, as I understood his comments, was he is going to allow $3,500 in closing
Yeah.
costs.
But if you're a
too.
veteran, your closing costs will be waived anyhow on your GI Bill, so, you know, I mean, if we really want to get people in here, well, we made an issue about county employees, we made an issue about affordable housing. $250,000, you know, the principal may be low, but you still have to pay tax on it, so you're clocking somewhere between $1,500, $2,000 a month by the time you get on paying all your principal, interest, and all that other stuff. So my
Okay.
question is,
Okay.
he made the issue about making this affordable housing for county employees. How do we make that part of the stipulation? Or can you legally?
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to have to do a little bit of research, and since I think we're leaning towards 30 days, I will address that with Mr.
Okay,
Randall.
all right.
But I do want to look into that and make sure that we are able to do something like that. But, I mean, with him doing that, he can do it, but if the board does something as far as affordable housing, that is an issue that I do need to research as far as what we can and cannot do with our stipulations.
Okay, well, I heard it, and I just like to see if we can do something about it.
Sure.
So I support the hold, by the way.
And one other thing too, typically we don't address price points as well. And that's in the stip
but he
letter
did.
too, so.
But he brought
That
it up.
doesn't, that should, well, I know, but we always take it out of stip letters because we don't control that.
Well, but he brought it up, all right?
He did offer, but could we do it as a clerk's note
I was
when
going
we
to say,
do?
oftentimes,
when we hear it?
a lot of the applicants will bring up price points, but we cannot enforce price points at
Right.
all.
Okay.
So, I mean,
that-
legally, we cannot enforce price points. As far as anything else, affordable housing, I will do some additional research on
all right.
that point, but we cannot limit prices because that's market driven.
Just asking how we can do it, if we can do it at all. If we can't, we can't. But,
Yeah.
you know, if someone's gonna come up here and make an offer to support our employees, all right? And make that part of his selling point, then I think she's part of the closing, of the argument here. So that's all I'm saying.
Sure.
So, because we don't have a GI Bill for our police officers and our firemen, all right? We don't have that kind of program. We should, but we
Or
don't.
teachers.
Or teachers, okay? So I'm just saying that, let's just, maybe there's some way to get creative too with our government, right? So I support the hold. So,
I'll make a motion.
sure.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we hold this Z25 application for 30 days and, or to our next zoning hearing, July 18th. And ask that the applicant meet with the opposition and the ones here in support.
Second.
Have a second for discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0. Okay, before we do the next case, Debbie, we have just give me 30 seconds here. Commissioner Weatherford wants to advise us to position. Right, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and put. Okay.
Thank you. With the board's indulgence, I'd like to make a revision to my previous motion on Z15. I left a statement out.
You want to, yeah, make a motion to amend. And
Correct.
then
I'd like to make a motion to amend my proposal for Z15.
it's actually, there's two motions. You're going to ask the board if they will allow you to amend something. The board will vote on whether or not it can be amended, and then you will make the amendment and it will be voted on.
Point of order, my understanding was that we can do it the same day, provided we don't get into the next case. Once we get into the next case, the assumption is that people have left, and we're not allowed to change something on the same day if we've gone into the next case.
By a 4/5 vote, you can, on the same day.
Okay, but because the whole reason that was put in place was because everybody that was here for that case is gone.
Well, the only stipulation is staff comments. I didn't incorporate those in there.
Okay, I mean, I just, I think we got to be careful because I remember when we didn't have this rule, and there was a really important reason why we put it in place.
Well, it can be done on the same day with a 4/5 vote, but the board has to allow the motion to amend. So it's a request by the board to amend, and it's either a yes or a no. And if not, then we would have to do the motion to amend after it's on the agenda at the next
All right,
hearing.
let's do this.
I have a motion to amend previous.
Let's just do this. Is Kevin still here? Why don't we just call Kevin to come back, and then we'll do the motion to amend. I just want to make, as long as he's in the room, because he represents the applicant.
Excuse me, Chairman, I can understand you doing that, but this is a benign addition to add staff
Okay, all right,
comments and
okay. I'm
recommendations.
just trying to be fair here and make sure that
we do with.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and make a motion to amend. We need to have a 4/5 vote.
Do I have a second?
We have a second. Any discussion other than me?
Yeah, I have some discussion. I mean, I understand it's benign, but we don't know if there's staff comment. Sometimes there's individual staff comments that could differ from a stipulation letter that a particular applicant may not agree with. Well,
Just.
All right, so are there any other comments?
My only comment
Okay.
is that this is a motion to amend, not rescind.
Okay.
That's my-
Are there any other comments? So I call the question. You got to vote.
Kevin is actually.
All right, it passes 4-1 with Commissioner Ott in opposition. All right, so now we can
Now,
now.
Mr. Chairman, I'd
Dana,
like
excuse me, Dana just told me Kevin Moore is back, or Kevin is back on his way, so he will be here shortly.
I would like to make a motion to amend the motion for Z15 to include in all staff comments not otherwise in conflict with above referenced stipulation letter. Any and all stipulation revisions must be approved by district commissioner or staff designee. I said that.
and just for clarification, this is the zoning that was the OSC.
Correct.
Correct.
All right.
Right.
Second.
All right, now, are there any other discussion? So, let me see if I understand this. A yes vote means that we agree to include those stipulations in the application.
That's correct.
All right, but if we voted against it before, then we would still have to vote, I mean, we wouldn't have to, but I would think to me that regardless of what was if you voted for this, it would seem to be a conflict that you've already voted against the whole motion. See what I'm saying?
I understand your point.
It's in essence a revote.
It is.
It's a revote, so if you voted no, you need to vote no again.
Unless you wised up, you have to vote the same way.
Whatever, but I mean, even though it's an amendment, basically it's a revote because what the first motion should not have been an amendment. It should have been to rescind the vote of the board previously. And that's where I think the confusion is. Because after we move on, we're rescinding the previous vote, then the
Well,
commissioners.
it's not being rescinded. The approval stands, you're just adding a condition to it.
My amendment is being, my motion's being amended.
I mean, we have done this before.
Okay, I'm new with the board.
I know.
All right, and I'm just careful that this is, zonings are laws. Once you pass a zoning, it's a law. And I'm just very, very careful about revising a law without making sure that we have the full content of the law expressed and the intent of the law expressed. And I was concerned about the parties being here too. So
Sure.
we're not open up ourselves to something like litigation because we followed something wrong.
And I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I left out the staff comments, not otherwise a conflict, and that's normal, a standard motion.
Okay, all right.
And in that are DOT comments, there are stormwater comments, et cetera, that all applicants must agree to.
I understand. Again, I just don't take anything for granted on these zoning. I'm very, very sensitive to how important these zonings are.
If it
and I
was
wanna
one
make
of the additions that I had made, that the applicant and the opposition or the neighbors would, then I would totally agree with you, sir.
Okay, okay.
Perhaps if we were to hold this until Kevin gets in here and if he agrees to it?
Well, then the problem is you have people in opposition that aren't here either. So either way, you have to almost redo the whole thing. But I'm gonna
Well,
go
it's
ahead.
not the,
I'm gonna go ahead and allow the vote, okay? I'm gonna allow the vote, because I don't think there's any more discussion on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just want to say, I mean, I understand what Commissioner Weathers is trying to do, and I get that. My concern is, I was here when we made the other changes, and it just, it's a real slippery slope when people have left, and so my no votes are against that. I think that we should have done it a different way. I get what you're trying to do, and I'd support that part. But there's a reason why we wrote it the way we did, and I'm not sure that we're going down the route that we're supposed to.
Well, I'll go with legal counsel. She says we could do it with the 4/5 vote. We did that, and now we're gonna revote on the amendment.
You're voting on the amendment
Right.
only, but again, if you denied it, I mean, if,
Right.
I agree with your, if you didn't vote for it, then you can't vote for conditions because you
Right,
didn't vote
exactly.
for it.
Right. So I'm
Well,
gonna go ahead.
This is an amendment to the motion allowing it, but their original vote still stands, right?
Well, they're voting on whether you can add another condition to it.
Correct. Not the original amendment, which has already been voted on.
Correct.
So all the board would be voting on is allowing me to add this to the original motion.
Correct.
Their original vote for that motion still stands. This is only to add this amendment to my motion.
Right, but if they didn't vote for it originally, it's irrelevant to them as to what the
Right.
conditions are.
Right.
Because
Right.
they denied it.
Right. Okay, so we have any more discussion? All right, I'll call the question.
On a higher plane.
And it passes 3-2 with the chairman and Commissioner Rod in opposition. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now we have the consent agenda item, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And I'll reread this into the record, Mr. Chairman.
sure.
I had it here, I just didn't read it.
Other business, item number 23 is to consider amending the site plan and stipulations for Medical Development Corp. regarding rezoning application Z33 of 2014. The property is located on the west side of Bells Ferry Road and on the south side of Shiloh Pass and land lots 148 and 149 of the 16th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to deletion of stipulation number 12 from the letter of stipulation dated April 30th, 2014. County arborist to approve fully planted 25-foot buffer adjacent to the single-family houses. All previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment. And the fencing along Shiloh Pass to stay as originally approved by the Board of Commissioners in the original zoning conditions. There was one person opposed. Ms. Cummings, is that okay with you, that last condition? Okay.
We need her to come up.
She needs to come up.
Okay,
Yeah, we need to hear comments. I can't hear from back there.
all right.
Let me tee it up, just 30 seconds. For the record, my name's Garvis Sams. I represent medical development in this other business agenda item.
That last condition I read.
This is Ms. Susan Cummings, who's going to state her position, and we concur with it. The other business item was to eliminate the stipulation regarding the fencing component contiguous to Arden Trace subdivision, which you can see here is to our west, Shallow Pass is to our north. The request was comprehensive, however, we meant to focus it singularly with respect to Arden Trace. So we're agreeable to keeping the fencing component as a part of our original stipulation letter intact with respect to Shiloh Pass, where Ms. Cummings resides, and if she'd like to address that, that'd be fine.
Now, you're amenable to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm a resident of Shiloh Pass, and it seemed like they were just taking it all away.
Okay.
And it's fine for Arden Trace, but
Okay.
we don't have a tree buffer, so we need that fence.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're not in opposition, because if it was, I'd have to move it back to the regular
Yeah, they
agenda.
just added
All
that.
right, that's good. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate your time this morning. So now I can make a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Thought it was consent agenda.
Well, it was pulled off consent because we had opposition.
Motion put it back on the consent agenda. That's what I was.
I thought I could just make a motion to approve it.
Put it back on the consent agenda.
But I would like to see the final site plan that shows the fence line for Shiloh Pass and it removed from Arden Trace. Because I have letters in support of it being removed at Arden Trace because of they want to keep the natural tree buffer. And I wasn't aware of the opposition from Ms. Cummings until this morning. And now that it's all worked out, I still want to be able to approve the final site plan that shows what we're talking about here.
And you can add that as a condition to your consent.
Okay, go ahead.
So first, we have to have a motion, put it back on.
Motion to add it on.
Right, and then we vote on the motion, on the consent
Then
item.
Commissioner Burrow will say,
Right.
I want to add this additional condition, and then you all will vote
Right.
on approving that as.
So I make a motion that we put other business 23, that's the right number? Other business 23 back on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a second, any discussion? Call the question, passes 5-0. Okay. Now, I'll let you make your motion.
Okay, and I would like to make a motion to approve other business 23 with final site plan approved by the district commissioner.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question, passes 5-0. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're back on the regular. We're back in the middle of the road again? Okay.
Okay, moving on to the regular cases, a rezoning case Z30 Montecito Developments LLC. Request rezoning from GC to NRC for the purpose of a convenience store fuel sales and a restaurant, land lots of 557 and 628 of the 19th district. The property is located at the western intersection of Austell Road and Callaway Road. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z30? No one? Okay, let the record show there's no one opposed.
I can do this, I can break this.
Honorable Board, thank you very much. My name is Ron Crump with Continuo Group, 3081 Holcomb Bridge Road, Norcross, Georgia, representing the developer of this property. As you know, the property is approximately 2 acres on the corner of Callaway Road and Austell Road, and is currently zoned GC. The existing zoning would allow us to develop the property as we are attempting to, with a convenience store and drive-through restaurant service. However, unfortunately, the property was actually located in a neighborhood activity center, future land use, therefore GC is not an allowable zoning. And that is why we're here today, to rezone the property to NRC to take it into compliance with the land use requirements. And that NRC does allow for the exact same uses that we are trying to progress on this property. As you see, we've kind of gone through iterations of discussions with the commissioners and the board and staff as well, and as well as the neighborhood. They did show up to the previous hearing to have a couple of comments which have been addressed. So with that, I think there was a list of stipulations that Mr. Porter approved, and we fully agree to all those stipulations as they were written at the Planning Commission. And I would just point to this site plan here to kind of point to the couple of items that were added to further address the requests of the neighbors. The first discussion. The first discussion item was the rear buffer. So we do have the 40-foot residential buffer, and we're actually about 80 feet back to our retaining wall. And this whole buffer area, which was previously clear-cut as part of the master development years and years ago, we are replanting that fully. We've added a bunch of hollies in there to kind of help that, and we, of course, leave that to final staff approval if they would like to rearrange some of those species. We've also added the fence along the back property line, which was requested, which is a black vinyl chain link fence along the back property line, and then along the western property line, we bring forward the decorative fence, which is more of a wrought iron looking fence. With that, I believe we feel that the zoning proposal will permit the use suitable as per the requests, I guess, as per the desires of the neighborhood. The property currently has no reasonable economic use as a GC, so therefore it's required basically to become NRC to even become in any way usable, because GC is not a permissible use in the neighborhood land use. And we feel that there's no further effects to cause this to be, I guess, against the wishes of the public and against the wishes of staff. I will show you the proposed elevation of the building to just wrap up. We are planning an upscale facility. It fully intends to be very well lit, very well security maintained, and I believe all those stipulations were added in to kind of help address that as well. With that, I guess I will save any other time for further discussions as needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cupid.
Hi, Ron, if you don't mind just staying up there, I have a couple of questions for you. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
I want to thank you for addressing the resident concerns with respect to the property. This looks like it's going to be a nice addition to the area. There, just a minor stipulation is to add for the final elevation to be approved by the district commissioner in case it does vary here. Because I do like this
Absolutely.
plan, but this is still proposed. I just want to be able to approve what's finalized. Also, in dealing with another large gas station that's in the district, I realize that there can sometimes be variations in the gas canopy.
Yes.
So what I'd like to do is to add a stipulation for the architecture of the canopy to be submitted to the district commissioner for final approval as well.
Okay,
And for it to
absolutely.
have similar masonry to the building architecture.
That won't be a problem.
Wonderful. Okay. That's all I have, and again, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I move for the board to approve Z30 to the NRC zoning category, subject to planning commission comments and recommendation with modification to Stipulation number 3, to add final elevation to be approved by District Commissioner, and to add a stipulation that the architecture of the canopy is to be submitted to community development approved by the District Commissioner, and that the canopy is to have a similar masonry finish complementary to the exterior of the building. All of the- Oh, I'm sorry. All other staff.
Don't forget that.
Comments, recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
Are you sure you want that in there?
Yeah, I'm positive, sir.
Second then, since you did much better than that.
Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Find out what your problem is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving into land use permits. LEP 10, David Meany, request a land use permit for the purpose of poultry and land lot 825 of the 16th District. The property is located on the northwest side of Pine Road, northwest of Penhurst Drive. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LEP 10? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Good morning, folks. My name is Dave Meany. I'm hoping to lighten the mood in this room a little bit with my application. My wife and my 3 sons live on Pine Road, and we are currently applying for a land use permit, a temporary land use permit for the use of, for the reason of raising hens on our property. My wife and I are both college educated. My wife currently works for the CDC in the capacity of public health advisor. She's very well versed in issues that may be pertinent to this. Myself, I'm a home builder and a contractor in East Cobb, have been for 22 years. We built the property, or we built the home, I built the home 20 years ago. And I take pride in the fact that we maintain our property in a consistent manner with the East Cobb and the surrounding areas. Forgive me, I'm a little bit flustered. I thought I had more time, but
10 minutes. I mean.
Oh, I have more than enough to fill
Well,
10 minutes.
okay, all right.
I'm going to focus on the things that I think are pertinent. Going through the process, we did get all of our contingent abutting property owners to sign off on this. I believe you have copies of this, but I want to make sure that that's added to the record. I also have many affidavits or supporting letters that I'd like to add to the record. Too long to list, but I will share them with you. 2 weeks ago, I presented in front of the planning board, the planning commission. They denied our application for reasons I'm still not quite sure about. But with that being said, the 2 focuses that they had were property values and health and safety concerns. With that being said, I can address each of them after doing some research. Property values, it's a misnomer that having poultry on your property would decrease property values. I have statements from Forbes magazine that basically states that 7 out of the 10 top rated municipalities or cities in the country allow backyard chickens. We have a statement from the Georgia Ryan Brasher, Vice President, Member of Public Services, Georgia Association of Realtors. In his response, he writes, "Thank you for your inquiry. I'm afraid I will not be able to assist you much with any real statistical data on the impact of raising chickens in urban and suburban environments on property values. Not because I wouldn't like to, but because such data is not tracked or on either the state or national level to my knowledge, nor could I find any such data after doing some research on the subject. It is possible that some localities may track such data." Jen Bowen, broker for Keller Williams, "I don't think backyard chickens will decrease property values. That certainly isn't something that appraisers take into consideration." Net of it is, from my research, is that it's statistically insignificant, and it's too hard to prove. So with that being said, the property value issue is really something you can't put your thumb on with regard to chickens. People typically in our area buy because of location, schools, and taxes. That's pretty much covers the the realtor's perspective on it. With regard to safety, again, my wife and I we don't do things without due diligence. As a home builder, I'm perfectly capable of building a chicken coop, meeting all the criteria, which I'll run through real quick. We are on 32,000 square feet. My property's 32,000 square feet, which just allows us to apply for 6 hens at 5,000 square foot per hen. Only hens will be kept on the property, agreed. Poultry shall be kept and maintained within a fenced area. Already have addressed that, and we can certainly accommodate that. Coop and other buildings will be located at least 30 feet off property line. Coops are we can do that. And if I could find this is a recent survey that I had done. The highlighted area is, after returning to my surveyor, he put in what he called a poultry setback line. There's been many giggles throughout this entire thing. That highlighted area is the space that I can be within the guidelines of 30 feet off of any property line. It is to the rear of our house, to the right of this entire area is fenced in, which I can accommodate a passageway from the proposed chicken coop area. That area is about 1,400 square feet, which should be more than enough for the adventures of 6 hens. Again, based on the research we've done and my wife is on, nuisances are created by lack of attention and negligence on the part of the owner, not necessarily the animal. Chickens are actually a very clean animal. If you don't maintain any animal, or any human being for that matter, bad things happen. I have 3 sons, so I know exactly what that can turn into. We are conscientious. Again, we do not go into anything lightly. This is all the purpose of this entire episode is to educate my children, make them stronger young men with some knowledge of responsibility and better citizenship. And that's pretty much my case. I think I've covered just about everything as far as the requirements. We've done all of our application processes. So short of that, I don't really have much more to say, I'm sorry. I hope you consider our application, but I'd love to open it up to any questions or concerns you might have for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Commissioner Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My understanding is at Planning Commission, you showed a picture of the coop. Do you have that with you?
I do have the coop.
And now, is this your own design, or did you get the design from somewhere else?
A little bit of research by my boys, but yeah, it's pretty much our own design, and I built it.
Because I think there was some question as to whether or not the size is sufficient for 6 hens.
Again, based on research, it's more than adequate. It has six hen laying areas.
You're saying that's nicer in your house?
This goes inside the house, right? This is just.
This is under your deck, right?
Currently is under our back deck, but I'm prepared to move that.
No, I'm actually okay with the location, because normally one of the big issues, besides the platted subdivision, that board members or the neighbors have is that the chicken coop always manages to find its way closest to your neighbor's yard. In this case, you have it underneath your deck. So, okay.
Can I address that real fast?
Sure.
My property is very unique in that sense. If you
Yeah, just hold the mic up close. There you go.
The closest neighbor from the proposed the coop location, closest neighbor to their physical house is 130 feet in this direction, 85 feet in this direction. I'm 140 feet from the from the curb to the proposed location. To the rear, it's Walton High School. We have
No, I mean, I think the fact that you have signatures from all your neighbors is kind of testament to the fact that they don't have a concern with it, and I don't really either. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion.
I was looking my chicken SME over here.
He just wants to go to Chick-fil-A. So. All right, I'm going to make a motion to approve LUP 10. Now, John, I can't make subject to staff comments because staff comments were to deny it. So, so kind of walk me through. I wasn't saying that because of what happened with you. There are no staff comments. So, what I would like to do is have you submit the photo, okay, or a copy of it, subject to the chicken coop as shown today, subject to a maximum of 6 chickens. No roosters. What else, John, do you think I need to put in there? I mean, that looks affordable for the chickens.
You want to have the district commissioner approve the final location of the chicken coop?
Or do you want me to just say that it goes underneath the deck?
That's fine.
Yeah, chicken coop to go underneath the deck as depicted.
That would be my preference, but.
Well, no, that's my preference too. Anything else, John?
12 months or 24 months?
24 months.
Okay.
So that would be my motion.
I will second that motion.
Okay. I just think that, contrary to the opinion of my esteemed colleague here, I do know something about chickens. My own concern, I favor it. Just want you to know right up front here. 6 chickens produces a lot of phosphorus, so we say. So I just want to make sure that there's a way we make that the chicken coop itself is maintained in a status that meets health standards for the county.
Well, to your point, Mr. Chairman, in light of what his wife does and the fact that it's underneath their deck, something tells me that they're not going to let it smell, and his wife's not going to let it become a health hazard.
All right, okay, I just want to make sure, I just want to speak for the public on this. I mean, if there's 2 chickens, that's one thing. 6, that's a lot of chickens. And I just think that it's something that we need to make sure that they meet this, do we have standards in the county for applying for livestock like this, that they have regular inspections or what?
Not to my knowledge, Mr. Chair.
But to kind of quote to a previous zoning where you have said they meet all the technical requirements of the code. 6 chickens is allowed by the lot size. And so by the lot size, 6 chickens, the amount of phosphorus is acceptable. So, I mean, I just think that, the way it was written,
I've
all
just
that was
expressed my
taken into
concern,
account.
that's all.
Okay.
But again, I'm on record as saying that, so. Any other discussion? Commissioner Cupid? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm in support of the application and reviewing staff recommendations. I have some concern about the criteria you use to deny the application. They're very general statements that refute or that are negative towards the criteria that's to be addressed without substantiating it, and is to make it seem as if our code has no purpose for being code. And I think that's problematic when we have approved as a board in majority for it to stand. So I think that when we evaluate these applications in the future, you can't just negate one of the criteria for considering these permits without providing reason for it, because it's just saying there's no purpose for us having the code in the first place.
And I agree. I mean, you know, there's a huge lack of comment and information from staff.
And one of them was the request may affect the safety, health, or welfare of the surrounding neighborhoods. So I'm just saying that, but specifically, what does that mean? I mean, I had a specific concern, but obviously I'm not the only one that had a concern like that. So Commissioner Weatherford.
Yes, sir. I'd just like to say, I think it was very, very prepared and I appreciate it. And the fact that you've come with surrounding neighbors that approve it certainly makes our job a lot easier, and that you have done what's right. And the other fact is, and I applaud you for, is you had no complaints and you came forward because it was what you're supposed to do. And the majority of the time, these applications are people that were complained on, and they're coming in after the fact. So I applaud you, sir, for doing the right thing and doing it the right way.
Good comment. Commissioner Burrow.
Yes. I was thinking the same thing of Commissioner Cupid, why staff and planning commission voted in denial. And I guess number 12 would be my reason as well, but there are other factors here. But they did both deny it, so I think everyone knows my position.
Okay, any other discussion? Call a question. It passes 4-1 with Commissioner Burrow in opposition. All right, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Now we have other business 15 and 21, right? Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Board. For the record, my name is John Peterson. Other business item number 15 is to consider a settlement of litigation for Denomi versus Cobb County, Georgia. Cobb County Superior Court Civil Action File number 16-1-9822-53 regarding rezoning application Z35 of 2016. The property is located on the east side of Ebenezer Road and at the western terminus of Cedar Ridge Road in land lot 304 of the 16th District. By way of background, this settlement proposal concerns property which was part of the May 2016 rezoning application on Ebenezer Road, in which the rezoning from R20 to RSL was sought. After many continuances and substantial opposition, the Board of Commissioners rezoned the property to R15 with stipulations on September 20th, 2016. Then on November 15th, 2016, the Board of Commissioners voted to rescind the September 20th, 2016 rezoning action. The rescission of the rezoning decision caused the property's zoning designation to return to the R20 zoning district, and Z35 return to a pending rezoning application. Rather than consider a pending application at the November meeting, with the agreement of both parties involved, the board voted to hold the application until the next month so the applicant and opposition could meet. Prior to the December zoning hearing, the property owner of the original property of the original application filed a suit in Superior Court appealing the Board of Commissioners' decision to rescind the rezoning decision. At the end of March 2017, Parent Home submitted a site plan for consideration as a settlement of litigation. A settlement of litigation letter was submitted by Park Suff on June 12, 2017, and asked for the property to be rezoned to R15 subject to the site plan, the house elevations submitted, and many stipulations contained in his June 12th letter. The letter, site plan, house elevations are contained in your packet. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to conduct a public hearing and consider the proposed settlement of litigation proposal. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to this? I'm here, I'm not opposed. Let the record show there's no one opposed, Mr. Chairman. Would the applicant?
I know when to be brief, and that is when an opposing attorney is not opposed anymore. So I want to just publicly thank Commissioner Burrell for taking the time to have us sit down with the neighbors and hammer out these agreements that are contained in the stipulation letter dated June 12th. And I also appreciate Council Lawton Jordan for also working and hammering out these agreements. And I think it's a great resolution to this dispute and will allow a great neighborhood that will not provide chickens or affordable housing.
Hey.
I had to go there.
I'm not so sure I'm going to support this now.
But I do appreciate the commissioner's leadership in getting us together and sitting down. And it was very helpful, and I appreciate it. And be glad to answer any questions. I can obviously go through the stipulation letter, but y'all have it, and speaks for itself.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrell.
Yeah, just for a little bit of history. First, I'd like to ask Parks and Lawton to come up. And John, you're welcome to join them since you're the only neighbor left today. As you all know, this case has been going on for over a year. It was first scheduled to be heard in May of 2016. We had some challenges in in September of 16. The board deleted it to R15, and there was a lot of concern from the neighbors, and rightfully so. And I realized the mistake I made and tried to correct it by rescinding the vote, and that got us deeper in with Parks filing a complaint litigation. So, but we've been working on a plan ever since, and I just want to thank everybody for coming together, sitting down, working it out. We now have a neighbor committee that will be reviewing any changes or to the site plan or steps or anything, and we'll have input before I approve or sign off on any minor mod or anything. So I appreciate the two of you especially working together in a difficult situation. I appreciate the neighbors' patience and with me and the whole situation. And I think this will be a nice product for the area, nice development. And you all know how to get me if you have any concerns. And we'll be having several meetings going forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
I do have a couple of things that I want to add to the stip letter dated June 12th. Under number 8, I want to add that the last sentence say that the county is allowed in the undisturbed buffer for utilities and or water and sewer if necessary. And the buffer area will be restored upon completion as allowed per county standards. Are we legally agreeable to that? Lawton and the neighbors and Parks, are you agreeable to that? Okay. Also, I want to add a stip number 21. DOT has recommended in their comments a decel lane turning right into the entrance. But just for assurance purposes for the neighbors, I want to make sure that it's a stip. So number 21 will read, decel right turn in lane at entrance will be installed by developer as recommended by DOT. Everybody good with that? Ashley, good. Okay, and then, last but not least, my District 3 engineer, Brian Loudermilk, and we've had several requests. Last year, we put sidewalks in from Sandy Plains down Ebenezer past Addison Elementary, that stop at Hickory Woods on the east side. I've had several requests prior to this development to extend them to Blackwell. And I've also, with this development, if it gets approved today, we'll have frontage sidewalks on Ebenezer, but I am adding them to Mabry's with the exception of the frontage on this development if it gets approved. And also down Mabry's, excluding Princeton Manor, where there are currently sidewalks, to Kristen Trace. And that will help access down to Shallowford, where there is a middle school for that side of Mabry's as well. So I have a map that I would like to submit that outlines where the sidewalks will be going. They're going on my priority list for sidewalks. So hopefully funding will be available for this in 2018, but for the majority of it, but it may extend to the following year. But it is going on my priority list, and so I want to submit that map for the record. And that's all I have. So
I'm curious, that's a county project, right? That she's talking about?
the sidewalk.
The
It's
sidewalks are.
splossed, yes.
So they're splost dollars.
Part of my splosh sidewalk.
But we're not making these part of the stipulations.
No.
Okay.
I'm just entering the map to show where
That
it's gonna
eventually
go.
the sidewalks will go there. As-
Well, it can't be a stip, because I've had several requests from the neighbors on this project and also prior to this. And I just want to show the map of what I'm prioritizing for my sidewalk funding. That's just a
But to be clear.
goodwill gesture.
It's not a step
for
for
all
this, it
the-
has nothing to do with
No,
this.
it's not a stip.
Okay.
But it can't be a stip.
It cannot.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just submitting it for the record. I want the neighbors to know what we're doing
Right,
here.
but I'll be careful about saying 2018, because they can come back and say, hey, you said 2018. And we're doing a priority list right now for SPOS projects. We're putting that together, and if it happens to coincide with that, that's great. But if it's done in 2019 or 2020, it's done when the priority list is approved. by the
Well, I
board.
Yeah, but the sidewalks are, that's an individual commissioner's. priority.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I
it
just,
is.
all right.
Okay, so I just would like to enter for the record the map depicting where the sidewalks will be going depending on funding in the 2016 SPOS.
That's fine, that works, that's good.
Sidewalk projects, okay.
We have a motion.
So with that, I make a motion that we approve the settlement of litigation for Z35 from 2016 and other business 2017, subject to the stipulation letter dated June 12th, 2017, from Mr. Parks Huff. The additional language added to number 8 that I read. Do I need to read that again, or you got it? Okay. And a stip number 21, decel right turn in lane at entrance will be installed. District Commissioner to approve final site plan and architectural plan with review by neighbor committee, and all staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
Do we have a second, any discussion? Okay, call the question. Passes 5-0.
Hallelujah.
Okay.
Thank you all.
And I believe we have one more other business.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
21?
Item number 21 is to consider amending the site plan and stipulations for JWPIV-BAT LLC regarding rezoning application Z47 of 2015 for property located at the southwest intersection of South Cobb Drive and Dink Lane and land lot 300 of the 17th District. By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to neighborhood retail commercial in 2015 for business and retail, subject to numerous stipulations. Stipulation number 1 requires the site plan to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. The applicant runs a security company and has submitted a proposed site plan, which is in your other business packet. Additionally, stipulation number 7 requires that access to the rear of the building be closed and not be used for any activity outside. The proposed site plan does show the rear area being converted into a parking area with 8 parking spaces for employees only. If approved, all previous conditions would remain in effect. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to open up the public hearing and consider the proposed site plan stipulation amendments.
Commissioner Cupid.
This is currently in my district, but I would
Okay,
defer to
all right.
Commissioner Cupid to lead discussion on this.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I appreciate that, Chairman and Commissioner Weatherford. I expressed concern to Commissioner Weatherford with respect to this request. Back when this was rezoned in 2015, there was a variance added for the setback to the rear of the property to be 0 because there is no buffer, or not, excuse me, let me just. There is a waiver of the rear setback from the required 30 feet between this type of property and residential to 0 feet because there is no buffer. And when we were rezoning this property, both the planning commissioner and I went to the property owner that's right behind here to talk about her concerns. And her primary concerns were noise coming from the back of this property and also vegetation that was growing, I guess, rough vegetation that was growing from the ground, nothing substantial onto her property, which she wanted cleaned up. The noise that she was referring to just was of people talking behind the building, which I guess was invading the quiet enjoyment of her property. So to go from that to now having 8 cars parked behind the building with no buffer just does not seem to be acceptable, just because there is no buffer between this intense use and the residential behind the property. And if there was a concern about this, we could have addressed this at zoning, but for this to come back for other business after this was a point that was addressed in our stipulations is a challenge for me and will be for that resident.
Well, what does staff recommend on this, or do you have a?
This was on the consent agenda, Commissioner Weatherford. So staff had recommended approval, subject to 5 conditions. It was number 21 on your consent summary agenda, page number 3.
Right.
So how did staff think that the resident will be protected from noise and sight from allowing parking behind this building?
Well, we did take a look at it, Commissioner Cupid, and the property directly behind this property is not zoned residential, it's zoned future commercial. And going past that, it's on the future land use map to be commercial, it's in a community activity center. So it's not anticipated to stay residential.
Can we pull the map back, please, on this community? Okay. All the property here, this is a residential community, so I don't know if it's the older zoning or if the future land use map indicated something different, but if you look at the housing there, people do the best they can to maintain their property, but they've been residential for a long time. And, the resident here is an elderly woman. I think, looking at the zoning is one thing, but looking at how the property is being used and has been used over time is something different.
Do we know if there's currently still a residence behind there?
There is a house, but it's zoned future commercial.
I understand that. Do we know if anyone's living there?
There's a woman living.
I mean, Could you show the site plan, I guess, up? What is, I think it is, showing the parking, I think is up.
Hey, John, quick question. With the CF zoning, if the lady who lives there, or if, say, she wanted to put a doctor's office or an accountant's office in there, does she have to come rezone under
Yes.
CF?
Yep.
So what's allowed under CF? Because that's an old zoning.
CF does not allow you to do anything. It requires you to come in consistent with the land use plan.
Right, so that means, so to Commissioner Weatherford's point, the CF, although it's a zoning category, it really isn't.
No, it's a zoning category.
No, I mean, it's a zoning category, but you can't do anything with it.
That's correct.
So it's like GC.
It's a little bit more restrictive than GC, because GC can actually do things with if it's in a community.
Right, so even though it's a zoning category, you can't do anything with it, so you'd have to come back and do something with it. So, I mean, the reality is, even if somebody wanted to put commercial here, you're still gonna have to come back in and go through the whole process.
Correct.
And if they wanted to put it, if they wanted to change it to R20 or R15, whatever, you'd have to come back in also.
Correct. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the applicant is here for this case. Maybe he can shed some light on these
Please,
parking spaces.
if he could come forward, and I'm trying to read this a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Brian Teague. I'm a representative of JWP IV-BAT LLC. And the reason we are looking to put parking behind the building is for the excess patrol vehicles that we have for our security company. It will not actually be used day in and day out for the employees to come and go to work. We'll be parking in front of the building. This is just a place to put our patrol vehicles when they're not being used on job sites.
So this is like where they park when they're done with them, is that correct?
Correct. We have excess patrol vehicles that, they may not be on a job site, or they may not be assigned to a specific district. So we just need a place to park those patrol vehicles. The parking at this location is already pretty limited as is. So we're just looking to use that back lot as a place just to put those
It is
vehicles.
very tight. So cars
And-
gonna have to park parallel back there, right?
Can you say that again?
Are cars gonna have to park parallel back there?
Correct. The way the spaces are laid out right now, yes, ma'am.
Has the company made any accommodations for the resident that's adjacent to the property?
We currently have not. I actually was surprised with this. I didn't realize that we couldn't use that. So we certainly can. We could put up, different fencing, whatever need be to make that happen. If she wants us or he, I'm not sure who it is.
Is there fencing there now?
There's currently an old chain link fence that's falling down. I mean, we can put up a fence that would, block it, a wooden fence, wherever the case may be. Or we
Would
can
you
go
be
like in
willing to
with a
do something like that with a privacy fence or something between that and the property behind you?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry?
Would you be open to doing a privacy fence or something back there?
Sure, if that was required in order for us to park our vehicles back there, I would have no issue with that.
Well, hang on a second.
Yes and no. I think it'll be I think it'd be a compromise. I would feel better with some discussion with the neighbor to see if that's, if she would want a wooden versus a brick, because, even a wooden fence only provides, it's mostly a visual barrier, and again, 8 cars being parked between that close proximity between that building and her home, she's going to feel the impact of that. Like I said, if it was just people talking back there, or a number of people who were behind the property that made her feel uncomfortable, I can only imagine the kind of impact she's gonna be faced with 8 vehicles parked back there on a daily basis.
Well, to be clear, they're just going to park them when they're done and leave, correct? They're not it's not.
Correct, and they won't be accessed every single day. It's just a place to park the excess vehicles that we don't have on job sites, because we have to have them wrapped and ready to go at all times.
And then another issue is, because South Cobb in this area is kind of like a parking lot, when we went out there for code enforcement, there was an issue with cars being parked all over the place. And so there were stipulations put in to not have car-oriented uses right here. And what I'm hearing the applicant is asking to do is have similar activity of cars just being parked and stacked behind a building, which is the specific activity that the residents are trying to avoid in an area that just has been inundated with challenges. So this looks like it's going to be compounding that.
I think, Commissioner, instead of, what some of the lots are, these are patrol vehicles, just much would be around a police department, where you leave them when they're not on duty or when they're not, they're backup cars, and there won't be activity around there. So they won't be in disrepair or anything of that nature.
No, absolutely not. They'll be ready to go at all times.
Are you paving the back of the lot?
We intend to, yes.
What's the distance between your property line and her property line?
There
Actually,
is,
the back of the I'm sorry. What's the distance between the back of your property and the property line?
from the back of the building,
Mm-hmm.
I truly don't know what that
It
distance
appears
is.
to be.
From what I can recall, it was very tight.
Well, it's 120 degrees west by northwest.
Why can't you park in front of the building? Why can't you park in front of the
That's all
building?
Why can't we park in front of the building? Because the parking spots in front of the building are already very limited. There are, I mean, we intend to park maybe 2 patrol vehicles up there,
Mm-hmm.
but, I mean, looking in front of the building, there's just not that many places to park.
You were supposed to have 16 spaces as part of your zoning requirement.
These are the spaces that are currently existing as is.
Then you're not meeting the requirements of the prior zoning, at least from, it looks like from, unless, let me look in.
I don't see
Yeah, you have to look back at the actual application that,
I don't see its stipulation. Meet parking space requirements.
okay. So yes, I would be curious to know what the zoning division manager recommended, because it says in the staff comments, excuse me, it says in the minutes, staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. And if you look back at the zoning application where we have staff comments, it says waiver of the required parking spaces from the required 38 spaces to 16.
Okay.
So, you know, unless there's a hardship where they can't park in those 16 spots, Commissioner, it's difficult to see why we'd move parking to the rear of this building.
Well, I'm opening the discussion, but I think with, and you're going to pave it and will be gated back there, I assume?
Yes, sir.
And if you're open to some type of privacy fence back there?
Yep.
And staff recommends it, then I'm kind of at a loss unless someone else had any other suggestions. I don't see why we can't do that.
I think that if they're willing to build a fence and address the concerns of the neighbor behind, there are 16 spots if you count all the ones in the picture on the screen. And they pave it, I don't really see a problem with it. I mean,
Especially since they're inactive, so.
I would
Right.
just ask, because of the sensitivity that Galt and I showed for the neighbor, that the applicant be willing to speak with the neighbor and
I was
figure
gonna
out
make
what
that
the
part of it, yeah.
compromise.
All right, I'm willing to make a motion now, sir.
Sure.
I'd like the motion to approve other business item 21 with the following stipulations added, and they may already be included, but just to reiterate, that they are gated, that they pave the area, that a privacy fence be erected on the rear border, and consult with the neighbor back there to make sure that it meets the specifications that she might need in order to maintain the privacy she has with those cars.
Can I suggest that you, I'll second, but I would suggest that maybe you have the district commissioner approve the final fence.
Fencing.
Correct. And the district commissioner will approve it, and all staff comments not in conflict,
Okay, so we have.
even if there aren't any.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. Passes 4-1 with Commissioner Cupid in opposition. All right. That's it?
No.
We're done on time.
No, we're not. Absolutely.
We're not rescinding any more motions. With that, I call us adjournment.